Sonic Riders is the best Sonic racing game. Yeah, I said that. Sonic and friends are thrown onto hoverboards to compete in extremely over-the-top races against a bunch of birds running the least efficient gang you'll ever see. However, with the minimal experience our cast has with hoverboards, it's necessary to practice caution, so in order to prevent injury from failed tricks, I've come to the solution to remove them from the equation entirely. Can you beat Sonic Riders without doing any tricks? For the purposes of this challenge, a trick is defined as any time a fancy word appears at the top of the screen as a result of our movement when jumping off of a ramp. Our goal is to beat both stories from a fresh save file without performing any of these actions. We are allowed to use type-specific shortcuts as well as jumping off of turbulence, which never puts any of the trick names on screens. Also, we might as well try mission mode just to be sure. Well, that thought went out the window as soon as it came in. Every set of 3 missions begin with a mission that requires tricks to be cleared. And to be honest, I haven't done any of these missions before and really don't feel like it. The story should be more than enough, so let's get started. Starting in Metal City, the problem of not being able to use tricks should be immediately evident. Your board runs on air, don't ask how it runs out. Air is consumed while racing and gets consumed even quicker while doing things like boosting or drifting. If you run out of air, you'll be left running on the ground with slower speed and the inability to use type-specific shortcuts or even jump. Your main method of restoring air is through doing large amounts of tricks. Every time you jump off a ramp is supposed to be an opportunity to do tricks to maintain your air and speed. If you fly off a ramp and do nothing, you're left with very little air gain and even speed loss. Given that many tracks frequently require use of drifting and how helpful boosting is, most of this run will be maintaining air as much as possible. That said, we still have numerous ways of restoring air. We can restock on air at pit stops, but that comes at the cost of having to stay still for a few seconds. Item capsule can contain air, but that can come down to chance. Leveling up restores all of your air, extends your air meter, and powers up your boost. Leveling up is done by collecting 30 and 60 rings respectively, with some capsules containing 100 rings to instantly get us to level 3 on each track. Unless we take damage, leveling up can only be done twice per race. In some tracks, it's best to reserve leveling up for later laps if possible. That said, Metal City is the only track in the game where there are enough rings lying on the floor to reliably level up on. For most later tracks, we'll be relying on drops from item capsules and the level 3 capsules. Our most reliable option for replenishing air is the type-specific shortcuts. Speed characters can grind on rails, flying characters can fly through hoops off of specific ramps, and power characters can smash through obstacles. For speed and flying characters especially, these shortcuts shave a lot of time off each lap and refill large chunks of air. The only problem with these is that there are only 1 or 2 per lap. Finally, riding off the turbulence of the leading player can maintain air and is extremely valuable, with the problem that this strategy becomes non-existent as soon as you're in first place. Also helping maintain air is that you can turn moderately sharp corners more accurately by turning while tapping the drift button for less air consumption, as well as the obvious but helpful tip to boost before any guaranteed air refill. So we have a lot of options for restoring air, but they're all unreliable in one way or another. Other things to keep in mind is that holding back when jumping off of a ramp makes you go higher, and holding forwards makes you go farther. Trying to let go before the character accidentally tricks off the jump can be a little difficult, and because of that, I messed it up a lot when I tried. That said, the first 2 tracks only require that you come in 3rd place or above, making them essentially free wins with proper use of boost and turbulence. The first track that demands a bit more is Egg Factory. This is one of the 2 tracks where you use a power type character. To get back as much air as possible, run directly into the robots instead of panic dodging them like me. Especially on this track where any source of air is uncommon, and with air consuming tight turns, you'll need any extra air source you can get. There are 2 big shortcuts, one on the second ramp, and the next to the right of the level 3 capsule, with the second one being especially hard to get into. Finally, remember that for the rest of the game, that movement is automatic and you don't need to hold forward. You have no clue how many times this happened. As said previously, getting hit by other racers or falling off the course will reset your rings to 0, and your level to 1. But in turn, boosting into other racers will give you back as much air as it took to perform the boost, as well as knocking that character back. This is something that you're going to want to make as much use of as possible. Green Cave has you back to playing as Tails. There's a massive flight shortcut near the start as long as the turbulence doesn't block it. There's a second flight shortcut in the second half, but every time you fly off a half pipe, the character will automatically trick. But even in casual play, I don't think I've ever actually done this shortcut, so you should be okay without it. What you won't be okay without is the final shortcut. You absolutely need to nail a high jump on the first ramp to get a shortcut that saves a lot of time. If you miss this, there's a good chance the CPUs will get it and then have a massive lead on you. It's definitely a situation of me being too afraid of accidentally tricking by holding back when jumping, and then messing it up and then losing for it. At the start of Sand Ruins, stay behind Knuckles if possible and follow him into the power shortcut if he breaks it open. This will likely get you ahead of Tails and Jet, and even a level 3 capsule if you're lucky. On the second rail, only take the first 1 or 2 rails into sequence for sufficient air refill and to save time with minimal risk of falling off. The third one can save some time, but it's hard to get to and launches you onto an oddly slow ramp. Just Just make certain to not go down the middle pathway. There are a lot of moving floors and walls that will knock you down to lower routes or off the track entirely. Also, don't jump over the ramp. That's pretty important. Also, I know there's a top route that the CPUs get into, but I can't because I'm bad at this game. Even with that disadvantage, it's more than possible to win. After Sonic explodes and dies, we get to the hero story finale at Babylon Garden. I prefer to use the second grind rail to avoid the sharp turn that consumes a lot of air. The top route at the end doesn't give much time or air save. Given how many sharp turns there are and how difficult the level 3 capsule is to get, this track isn't easy. Running out of air is incredibly easy, and there are very minimal opportunities to get it back. What the heck? I was told to beat Jet! I did! How did I lose? Anyway, I eventually did. Thankfully, the Babylon story is only much harder. Starting off with Night Chase, I ignored the bottom route with the rail because there's a long animation to get down there and you'll likely bounce off the pipe away from the rail. Aside from that, hope Sonic gets run over and hopefully you'll win with proper use of the fundamental strategies. Red Canyon is a track that requires a very specific route to win. At the start, take the initial flight shortcut, boost to the control stick spinning section, take an awkward turn into the second flight ramp, ignore the top route that I forgot about, go middle or left onto waterfall, making sure to be as direct as possible or else flop all over the place, and I'd recommend getting the level 3 capsule on lap 1, it's going to be incredibly helpful. Carefully repeat all prior steps and you should hopefully be able to stay ahead of the CPUs. Ice Factory requires no more effort than you're used to by this point, and White Cove is a track I just naturally suck at. Okay. Go left after the first jump just to get to the rail easier, go onto the large vines for a faster route, and possibly the level 3 capsule. To get onto vines, fly off the pseudo half pipe on the left or off the right end of the tunnel. Hop onto the next rail and once again nail a high jump onto the first level like in Green Cave. Follow this plan 3 times in a row without fault and that should be enough. In Dark Desert, stay on the main path at the start by going down the stairs to not become a pinball. Soon after, try to grab the level 3 capsule. If not, that's okay, you really shouldn't need it. After that, boost to the first rail, and on the second set of rails, skip the second one in the sequence. With how hard this track is casually, I was surprised how I had more trouble with some of the earlier tracks in the game. That's okay though, cause next up is the hardest track in the game. I have darn near half an hour of attempts for Sky Road. It's a harder version of the already tough Babylon Garden. The turns are at their tightest and most frequent, the shortcuts and AI are at their most difficult, and air is at its most limited. There's a high up turbulence patch that I consistently failed to get to, and at the end a shortcut from a high jump that I was consistently struggling to reach. What you definitely need to reach is the flight rings. Without reaching them, you're not winning. Especially without certain shortcuts, running out of air is a very realistic possibility. The level 3 capsule is just too risky to get. As the laps progress, more of the track will be destroyed, and falling off knocks you back a lot, likely to the point of having to reset the race. This applies to the rest of the game, but is a lot more noticeable when falling off is so frequent. The second flight hoop requires a very particular angle to get into, which getting in is a necessity to beating the track. Just make sure you don't trick while adjusting your midair position to get into the hoop. Leveling up is next to impossible without good luck from the item capsules. On the attempt I won, I was still at level 1, but I did eventually win. Keep in mind that for the Babylon story that I didn't have as much to explain because most of it is the already hard basics, knowing when and where to boost, hoping for good item drops, getting on hard to reach pathways, and general air management without your main method of replenishment, but even harder. With this track, they all get pushed to the extreme, because the track is already hard with difficult level design and AI. With half an hour's worth of perseverance and a crap ton of resets, you can eventually overcome it. The final boss, thankfully, is the easiest race in the game. The Babylon Guardian is polite enough to not progress laps until after you've already hit him, and it doesn't even matter what place you get at the end. With getting enough speed and air consistently, he gets put down. With the non-retconnable truths of the Babylonian origins revealed, we confirm that it is in fact possible to beat Sonic Riders without doing any tricks. This was a fun and challenging way to replay the game. As someone who's put in the time to get better and learn the game's more in-depth mechanics and climb up the steep learning curve, not a brag, just a self-report on how I have no life, this was a proper test of the skills I'd learned from casual play. If you like this game and want a new, more challenging way to play it, then this is a recommended challenge. However, I thought it'd be worth noting that doing this challenge was still way easier and shorter than me playing the game casually for the first time. Yeah, this game's learning curve is pretty dumb. Finally, I'd like to thank you all for all the support I got on the last Sonic Challenge video. I'm super happy that it got the exposure that it did, and while I still plan on primarily making reviews, if you guys really want to see it, I would be happy to make more challenge videos. I originally hadn't planned on doing a whole lot of them, but if there's a market for it, I would definitely like to fill that. I have a lot more ideas for these runs, even non-Sonic ones, even if I never plan on them becoming my channel's main focus. I'm open to and grateful for any and all criticism and feedback. Hope you have a good day, hope Sonic Superstars is good, and hope this video isn't somehow outdated as it's being uploaded like last time. Have a good day and goodbye.